What up, everyone? Welcome again to another episode of Water for the Thirsty. I'm your conversation facilitator, Jared, and with us tonight we have Courtney, Jerome, Lorraine, and Kenrick who are with us. I think we're expecting Cliff in a little bit, but until he comes in, that's what we're gonna have for tonight. We are here to dive into this word based on our reading plan, which you can follow along too if you don't have a copy. Waterforthethirsty.com. There's a reading app. You can get hard copies if you hit us up at info@waterforthethirsty.com, or you can download it straight from the website. But yeah, we following a reading plan that's taking us through the Bible in a year. We do like 3 or 4 readings a day, or chapters a day, one from the New Testament, 2 from the Old Testament, and Kenrick's favorite book, the Psalms. So since the last time we got together, which was maybe about 3 weeks ago, we've covered a lot of material and ground. We closed out September, we're into October. So that means we were in the Mark, 1st and 2nd Peter, Luke, the end of Jeremiah, Kings and Chronicles.
Yep.
And tomorrow, we're kicking off Ezekiel. So yeah, our conversation is gonna come out of there.
Ezekiel's tough.
Ezekiel's tough. You don't find Jeremiah is tougher? Or Isaiah?
That might be a fact. Yeah. Sorry, Zeke. You're right.
So I did get a question from Lauren earlier this week. I know Courtney had a little something that I wanted to touch on, so I'm gonna go with Courtney and then Lauren because Courtney is already primed. So Courtney, give us your thoughts. Tell us a little bit where it's coming from and where you're going.
All right, good people. All right, I was in the beginning of Jeremiah. I kept seeing him talking about the issue of idol worship amongst the people, and just how much of an issue that was with God, and how it was related to prostituting themselves. And so for me, usually looking at it and trying to figure out, all right, what is the present day application of this? Like, what is the equivalent in our modern day? I don't think, I know there's shows like American Idol, right? I know that young kids may look up to a sports star and refer to them all that hey, Magic Johnson, that's my idol, something like that, right? But
Did you say Magic? Did you say Magic Johnson?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Some of the guys that are playing now.
What kids looking up to Magic Johnson?
The ones today? In the league, the ones that were in the league now, they were looking up to those guys.
My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the ones that come in.
I thought you were talking about my kids.
Yeah. Not your kids. They're like, oh, LeBron or whatever. That mistake that they're making. So
no comment. You can send all comments to Courtney at Water for the Thirsty.
Yeah. We can talk. You know what I mean? So I was just thinking about what. That's hilarious.
That's perfect timing.
I was just thinking about what else fits that mold, of idol. So, just led me to look up some things online, and I found an article, right? And so this is the gist of the article. It said, instead of carved statues of Adonis or Venus, we have created for each person his own handheld idol, designed with amazing ingenuity and carved with the utmost skill from precious materials. Each one of us has a little God who offers us the world in the palm of our hand. So I thought that was interesting. It was like, idol, and I'll just pick on iPhone because it's similar, but I mean, obviously, just our cell phones and in the culture that we're in now, where hey, we know that A lot of people have their nose stuck in the phone most of the day and have this kind of obsession with it. So I just wanted to kind of go into that and see, what what are idols today, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to try to define what an idol is based upon. So an idol is a noun. It is an image. It is an image or representation of a god, lowercase, used as an object of worship. Icon, god, likeness is all similar. And then there's the second definition it provides is a person or thing that is greatly admired, loved, or revered.
So that's what idol is in English.
That's
What is
that's
an
not
idol?
that's my dad. Like,
I'm not saying it's different. I'm just saying we have this definition. Let's add on another definition. What's a biblical idol?
was a biblical idol?
Yeah, when the Bible refers to idols, what is it referring to? There may be some overlap to how English.
I think there is overlap. I think it was the first one where it talks about a representation of.
Yeah, but even
to take the place of. I think it combines all of them. Something that was revered, something that was admired, something that was powerful, or thought to be bigger than you, larger than you.
Jerry, you look like you had something.
yeah, what I mean, in Bible often refers to how we make ourselves idols, right? So like anything that you put or give priority over God, or you just give things a priority they shouldn't have. So, and I think that's where we could kind of set ourselves up, because some of the things that we make idols of aren't bad in themselves. So nothing is wrong with a car or cars or favorite whipping boy. Nothing is wrong with money, but if you put the wrong emphasis on it. Nothing is wrong with food if you put the wrong emphasis on it. You can't make things that you were designed to master you, right? And I think if you do that, then I love it. So like, even with your phone is, sure, there's people who, they have to have the latest iPhone 14. It doesn't matter what they do. But I think more so what the phone allows, just prepare into that world where you start swiping left, swiping right, swiping up and down, and then 4 hours of your day are gone. Idle.
Maybe just a bad habit, which is not necessarily an idol. I've been asked this question, to go left to come right. What is a god?
Oh, that was a question.
Yeah, it was a question to everybody. What is a god? What is God? What is a god? What makes God God?
Well, there's what makes God God, but then just lower history. If we're worshiping it,
a god. A god is a deity.
Okay. What makes a deity? What is a deity? Like, I'm trying to get to the essence of. All right, let's say
it goes something. It's something that's. A god is something that's more powerful than you. That's above a human.
Something that's the source of something that you need.
What's that?
I said something that they consider to be the source of something they need.
Okay.
All right, and to piggyback off that, I think it's something for a being. In the case of people that were giving their allegiance to things made out of material. So you're giving your allegiance to something, and in exchange, this thing is supposed to, or promise its devotees this, whatever fulfillment of desires that they have. It's like worship me or be my slave, and I will give you prosperity, pleasure, power, peace.
Let's take that. What is worship?
Hmm.
Adoration, acknowledgement of, in a very significant, special, adoring way.
Doing whatever that
Manner.
God requires is worship.
Say again.
That God requires is worship. So if it requires sacrificing, that's worship for that God. If it requires bringing offerings, then that's the worship for that God. If it whatever that thing is.
So when we said the people, when Revelation 14, let's go to Revelation 14. Revelation 14. Courtney, you could read. Let's go with just verse 6 and 7. Let's just go with that.
Okay. And I saw another angel flying through the
No, sorry. Read to verse 10.
to 10. All right.
Mhm.
And I saw another angel flying through the sky, carrying the eternal good news to proclaim to the people who belong to this world, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. Fear God, he shouted. Give glory to him, for the time has come when he will sit as judge. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all the springs of water. Then another angel followed him through the sky, shouting, Babylon is fallen. That great city is fallen because she made all the nations of the world drink the wine of her passionate immorality. Then a third angel followed them, shouting, Anyone who worships the beast and his statue, or who accepts his mark on the forehead or on the hand, must drink the wine of God's anger. It has been poured full strength into God's cup of wrath, and they will be tormented with fire and burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb.
All right. So what's worship?
Adoration.
Adoration can be a part of worship, yeah. But can I worship you without adoring you?
Well, no. I mean, in this verse, it says, there's some people, like for instance, when it comes to the beast, there's some that will worship the beast, or there's some that will accept his mark on their forehead or on their hand. So there's that aspect of it
Is
too.
it either or both and?
I think both.
So it's worship the beast by receiving a mark on your hand or receiving a mark on your forehead. But
Right.
either way, you're worshiping the beast.
Right.
Does that have anything to do with liturgy or sacrifice
You
or
mean the
anything?
well, the hand and the hand is the doing, and the head is the thinking.
Mm-hmm. So what's worship? So there's a
I
word.
mean,
Go ahead, Kenny. Go ahead.
well, I guess it's if I'm walking down the path you're taking us down with our hands in our head, it will be the act of doing something, I guess the action of, and the giving of yourself, your will, and the giving of your actions according to that will.
So the word there is proskuneo, and it literally means to kiss like a dog licking his master's hand, or to fawn or to crouch, to prostrate oneself in homage, to do reverence, to adore. Um, in the New Testament, by kneeling or prostration to do homage or to make obeisance, whether in order to express respect or make submission. Use of homage shown to men being of superior rank. That interesting word there, obeisance. Can anybody look it up right quick? O-B-E, O-B-E, O-B-E-I, O-B-E-I-S-A-N-C-E.
OBEI.
S-A-N-C-E.
Yep. Deferential respect.
Yeah.
They paid obeisance, whatever it is, to the prince. A
Right.
gesture expressing deferential respect, such as a bow or a curtsy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Webster describes it as a movement of the body in a token of respect or submission.
Mm.
Obeisance is obeisance is how it's pronounced.
Vocabulary.com. An obeisance is an act, usually physical, showing dutiful obedience.
Mm.
The fact of dictionary.cambridge.com. The fact of obeying or respecting someone or something that you do to express this.
All right, so isn't that kind of like in our reading of Daniel, right? Wasn't Shadrach and the rest of the boys they refused to bow, you know, submit themselves or bow themselves in homage to this image that Nebuchadnezzar is forcing everyone in the realm to bow down to, right?
Deferential.
In that sense, they were refused.
So worship could take different forms. I can show respect.
Correct. That's what I was
going
to.
sacrifice. I can show respect by bowing down. I can show respect by just being obedient.
Mm-hmm.
But don't we show obeisance just in general? Like we show deferential respect to to parents, to grandparents. Yeah, I mean that's not, I don't know if that's necessarily worship or
Agreed. Agreed. But it's the prostrating of oneself, it's the submission of oneself to another, is the idea of worship. So if we go back to the text, this text is not talking about having a ceremony to the beast. This is about acknowledging the beast as being the person who's setting direction for you and humbling yourself to follow along in the direction of the beast, as opposed to doing that for God. Because notice what it says for the first thing: fear God, which is respect God, and give glory to him, because the hour of his judgment has come. Make obeisance, so to speak, to him who made the heavens and the earth and the springs of water. Right? I'm gonna pause there and say, is Molech just a statue? Is Baal just a statue?
No,
Just pieces of wood.
no,
But they were represented by pieces of wood
correct,
and stone.
correct.
What were they?
They were, well, they were nothing. They didn't exist.
They were gods to them. I thought.
They were gods represented in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
But as a god,
It was yes, it was the obeisance. It was the deferential respect
to the will of Molech.
to the will and doing of what those gods, whatever they were, what they were understood to be requiring.
What's the first commandment?
And God spake all these words. No, that's not
Good
it.
answer. Good answer. Yeah. And then what does it go on to say? What's the first thing that God says when he enters in the covenant with these people?
I am the Lord your God which brought you out to the land of Egypt. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So while you could have deferential respects to all kinds of things, anything that they have deferential respect to that is in conflict with me, that you then choose over me, is now what?
A God.
A God before me. Which then makes it a what?
An idol.
An idol. So, what's an idol, Courtney?
Anything close to God, I guess.
Yeah, like Lorraine said, anything you put before God, that's putting him in second place.
But so as long as you don't put another God before God, it's not an idol.
A man can't
Like if
a man can't serve two masters. You love one or hate the other.
that popped in my head as soon as I said it. Yeah.
Because I mean, you can have two jobs, but when both jobs call for you to come at the same time, what are you going to do?
You say you have two wives and what? What'd you say?
That too. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. You have two wives and you're in a circumstance where it's legitimately permissible to have two wives.
Absolutely.
Both your wives call for you at the same time. Which one do you go to?
It depends on what day of the week it is. I mean, it's everybody's got days. Everybody's got whatever protocol allows.
Whatever protocol allows. Word.
But you're right. You have to choose one.
Correct.
Correct.
You can't be in two places at once.
Correct.
And the one that you choose is the one that you prioritize for whatever your reasons are.
Correct.
Let's go to Romans 16, Courtney, and see how that makes sense now. Romans 16, verse 6.
Give me a second.
Vanessa was trying to
King James.
come in on the pronunciation. It's a French word. It's obedience in French. Yeah. And Gerald was saying worship is giving praise, respect, devotion towards a thing, person, or deity. Absolutely. An idol is anything that takes you away from something or someone. Interesting.
So Romans chapter.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that either. Yeah. We can touch it in a little bit. Go ahead, Courtney.
All right, Romans chapter 6, verse 16 says, don't you realize that you become the slave of whatever you choose to obey? You can be a slave to sin, which leads to death, or you can choose to obey God, which leads to righteous living.
Yeah. So one of the challenges that the people of Israel had in worshiping idols is that they then started to order their lives around the the values, the principles, the demands of the idols, whatever those were, in contradiction to what God is saying. And God is saying, don't allow anything else to direct you other than me. And if anything that is directing you in contrast to me, Peter says it's better to obey God rather than man, right? When he was faced with that, what should I do here? Should I obey you and disobey God? I mean, Joseph says the same thing. Should I do what you say and not do what God says? That's essentially what happened with Eve in the garden, right? Like all of these people, even Jesus being tempted of the devil was to make a decision to do what God says or not do what God says. Because when you do that, you are now following something else and you have now made that thing your God because you have given authority to guide your directions to that thing, whatever that thing is, whether it be a person, an ideology, a device. That thing is now setting direction for your life in contradiction to God. When you have that forcing to choose, that thing now becomes an idol. Now becomes your God, because an idol is a God. It's just a representation of a God or a thing that is placed in the space of God for you. One that you give worship, deferential respect to.
So that's kind of like Eve, right? She knew what God's instruction was. The serpent provides another path, and she chose that path. So now she says, essentially, this is now my master because I'm going to obey what he says.
Or what he's worshiping the beast. Not he's worshiping the beast. Is that you, Kenneth?
Well, I saw Lorraine put her
Go ahead,
finger up.
I have a question though. So can something be an idol one time? Or does it have to be a continuous habit of going towards that one thing?
It's a good question.
I think if you go back to what the original reference when we were reading in Revelation, I think the idea behind that was like a continual or a continuous thinking, giving over your will as well as doing the actions of that particular thing. I mean, I guess you could do it once, but if you only do it once and you don't do it again and you go back, then it's not really.
But okay, maybe not just once, but not a continuous pattern of doing the same thing. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but in the moment you're doing it, it is an idol.
But what are you doing? I'm sorry, what did you say, Jerry?
No, I said in the moment you're doing it, it is an idol.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Like, is it an idol?
You might wise up and not go back there, but because like you realize that there's the Bible parallels, I think, every human experience, right? There are people who learn from the mistakes of others without making them. There are people who made one mistake and wised up. There are people who made a series of mistakes, and then there are people who made mistakes and only wise up on their deathbed, right? But in every instance, there was an idol. It may not have been a perpetual thing. They might have made a bad decision or two and then wised up, went back. But in that moment, it was still an idol, I think. I don't think it changes the fact that it's an idol, right?
Right.
I hear you.
So when God says you can have no other gods before me.
Didn't say you can't have any other gods.
Well, no idols. Well, he actually did. Here's
the thing.
We've already.
God is saying you shall have no other gods before me, and then he goes on to say, or make any graven images. So if you decide to make a graven image, you've already disobeyed your God, right?
Yep.
But to your point.
But Magic Johnson isn't a graven image, and I didn't make him.
At that time, they worshipped the graven images. I'm not sure that we set up the physical images anymore. but we definitely worship all kinds of things.
Yeah, I was trying to go through and figure out how that fit today. Because I like LeBron. Like I like these guys are,
How about Tiger?
I Tiger. But I don't know if outside of like mimicking swings and understanding swing thought patterns and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if like I will definitely. I mean, God's never given me a swing thought. Well, I guess he's given me I guess I've had a swing thought, but like it's never like been ordained by God, right? I think my talent is, but that's a whole nother conversation. Like, but I think it's never been ordained by God, right? And so at the end of the day, me adhering or listening to and then doing what Tiger says, right? I don't know if that is, when it comes to golf or playing or isn't, that's not making him an idol
Not
because it's
necessarily.
not, huh?
Not necessarily. It could be in some circumstances. I don't know that.
Unless it's in direct conflict with God, like, with what God says.
Correct.
Like I said, but he's never given me a swing thought. So,
Right. So God appears to be, and this is one of the things that I kind of was seeing in one of the thoughts that I had for this week is that God appears to be big on respecting people's authority and, in fact, inviting people to respect the authority that he's given to other people. So he clearly gave Nebuchadnezzar authority and told the people to subservient themselves to Nebuchadnezzar. I gave Nebuchadnezzar this authority. So when Zedekiah and the others decide, yeah, we ain't going to do what Nebuchadnezzar says, right? They were not just rebelling against Nebuchadnezzar, they were also rebelling against God who gave Nebuchadnezzar his authority. Right?
Now this is getting loose. Go ahead.
But then let's go back to the 3 Hebrew boys.
Yeah.
God told them, settle down in Babylon, submit to the king of Babylon, whatnot.
Until it's in direct conflict.
Is coming and saying, worship this idol. Now what do?
Now it's in conflict.
Now it's in conflict. So now you have to obey your God and not put Nebuchadnezzar as your God.
Correct.
Nebuchadnezzar is subservient to my God. So I bow. Even when the Pharisees try to trap Jesus and say, is it right to pay tax to Caesar? You know what they are saying? Do you do what God says or what Caesar says? Jesus says, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God what's God's.
Correct.
Right? So there's this respect for the authority of the people. And so it's not that you don't give respect or obeisance to these things or these figures.
Only until it comes in conflict.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's very simple.
So Gerald says, for instance, my PlayStation can be an idol. I know young people that live for playing their PlayStation, everything connecting to it. They will not eat or steal if it takes them away from it. Yeah. Now the PlayStation is directing your life. You're obeying it. You're giving worship to the thing, homage to it. It's directing your path and your actions and not God. And you see that perfectly mirrored in Jesus' life. He didn't allow anything or anyone, not even his earthly parents, right? To guide his directions in conflict to what he understood God wanted from him.
Makes sense.
And something that's not visible. I mean, I guess I could. I would say, like, sometimes we get so busy that we don't spend time with God and we don't do what he's simply asking of us as far as building that relationship. So it's just like, I'm just busy. It's just you being busy, an idol. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got too much stuff to do. I got da-da-da-da-da, and you're putting it.
In that scenario, what is the idol? Who's giving the directives?
Me.
So is the busyness the idol? Who's the god there? Who's
I
giving
think
the order?
the only invisible idol is the Illuminati.
So what you will come
Because
to?
everything else comes back to either something, someone, or you.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, something, someone, or you. Yeah, yeah. And so that's where worshiping the beast comes in. You doing what the beast is asking you in contradiction to God. So now you're worshiping the beast. You're giving your allegiance to the beast because he's the one whose instructions you're following. When we pigeonhole worship into liturgy, we confuse what the grand issue is. And I like that you pointed out, Courtney, that one of the things you see in Jeremiah is this repeated um, cry against idolatry. And then if you take a step back, you realize that's where sin began, right?
Yeah.
Sin in itself is idolatry.
So 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 this is I think this is kind of going to take us on a tangent. So I'll hold off and make sure that we're all hearts and minds are clear before I say it. It may not.
I say go for it.
Right.
So going back to the the fact, and I think you read it in, I can't remember if it's Timothy Times, whatever it is, where it talks about the respect you have to have for authority, governments and whatnot. Is that all governments, or is it assumed that every government that exists has been put in place by God, and then so wherever you live, if there's a governing authority, you must adhere to what they are doing until it conflicts with what God is saying?
Well, I'll answer that question with a question.
Oh,
When we read Kings and Chronicles, did God establish every king that was put in place?
that's a tough question. I would, so I don't know what you mean by establish.
Did some of those guys get the kingship because that's what God ordained, or that's because they went and they took it? Or both?
Or both. Or it's a bit of both.
Some took it.
Yeah, but they're, wait, before I say anything.
That's hard to apply now though, because we don't know who's getting put where now.
But so but God never, so Caesar, God never established, based upon what you're saying, Caesar. It happened, it was allowed, and he then gave, like, render under Caesar, to Caesar what is Caesar's. Like, so I guess I guess that's where my question comes from. Like, any government, no matter how oppressive, no matter how, whatever it is, it's the authority that you are under. Do you always give that authority, or acknowledge and respect and adhere to that authority until it conflicts with what it is that God has established, or until it conflicts with God's authority in
Uh,
any situation?
I'll give you my opinion, and then I'll let Jerry come in. Um, the story of the Pharaoh in Egypt and the Exodus, even in Daniel, and I will go and find the verse in a second. Um, Yeah, I'll go and find the verse in a second. Let's go to Daniel 5. I think it's Daniel 5. Um, even in there, you see that God is one who is a respecter of authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even in Revelation, we see, the beast was given authority to do these things, and God doesn't come in and step in and override. He respects and operates within the authority and the parameters of the individual, but he
Mm-hmm.
also expects them to do the same kind of respect for him, right?
Correct.
So when Nebuchadnezzar started to come out of he said, I gave Nebuchadnezzar to do whatever it is he wanted to do with people. I gave him that power and authority. But when he started coming out of his britches, I had to put him in his place, right? And I think one of the things that my thought is that Paul, I think, was writing to Titus, and that to suggest to Titus to tell to the people not to take a posture of rebellion and civil opposition, right? But to
Mm-hmm.
be respectful in the society within their work, so that your default posture is to respect the authority of those who are in authority,
Mm-hmm.
but not to the place where it leads you up to disrespect God.
Yes, which
So it's kind of more
yes,
like a
which is
default
where
posture.
people come into conflict, right? Because even when you're reading, so another tangent. So even when you're reading Uncle Tom's Cabin, right? That was his basic premise, was that he was doing, like, he was like, I will not, like, I'm in this situation, and everybody, there's a negative connotation to Uncle Tom, but he was really like, I'm in this situation. This is the authority. I'm not going to contradict the authority until it contradicts what God has actually said to me, which is like the exact way that we should be based upon this conversation that we're having. However, is there a point where authority then, well, if that never happened, you never have Malcolm, or, well, I guess you had Martin, because
Not even
but you
Martin,
still,
he respected
push
authority.
back,
Yeah,
right? I
he
mean,
respected.
so like, how do you, so where is the respect for authority? Where is the line when it's an oppressive authority?
Hmm.
Where do you start? What is the respect, right? The respecter of that authority stop, right? Is it the from the fact that we're all created equal? And if you violate, I mean, where's the line,
Yeah,
right? Because
that's blurry. I don't know that there's any hard and fast answer. And I say that because the Bible has all kinds of stories
correct,
about different things and different approaches to different types of oppression and how people handle it with or without God. And
but it was very clear that you respect authority.
that be your default posture, yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things to be mindful of is the idea of the kingdom of God was about we don't belong to this. We won't live outside of this. Well, that's what people are starting to interpret it. Because we subsist to this higher kingdom and Jesus is now our Lord, Caesar don't have any rule or domain over us. And
Mm-hmm.
that had its potential to create this kind of conflict. It's one of the reasons why they killed Jesus and why that early portion of people was being pushed out, because they had the potential to create this kind of uprising. It was why some of the zealots were brought, gravitated to them, but they never really went to that realm because they were trying to overthrow the authority, which is not really what Jesus was suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
Suggesting live different,
Correct.
according to Jesus, not necessarily try to change the situation. But he
Correct.
was also not saying just take whatever, right?
Hmm.
But the Bible also speaks about oppression and justice as well. So
Right.
he's saying just go along to get along because they're in authority. Like you can respect authority, but when the authority steps into a certain space where they're going against God, you are to speak up and you are to be the voice for those people that don't have a
Yes,
voice.
but you'll be the voice. But where does that stop? Because
Right.
So one of the things you also see in the scriptures is, particularly as Lauren has pointed out, when God is sending the prophets, He's sending the prophets to talk to the people, to talk to the leaders, to tell them, to hold them accountable for all of this. But then He's
mm-hmm.
also telling the people who have influence to not just stand by and watch. So you have oppressors, oppressed, and then the others who are around. He's telling the oppressors, stop oppressing. And he's telling the bystanders, stand up and do something, defend the poor and
The poor, yeah.
right? And then he's telling the oppressed, rely on me, I will come and save you. Now, how is he coming to save you? By sending these other people to step in. That way we're all concerned and caring for each other. And there's this, because even the people in power can't be in power if the influencers are now stepping in.
Correct.
Which is what
Correct.
you kind of see with Martin Luther King Jr. When the white people with influence started to step in, that's when you started to get change, right? He was advocating and screaming, "Y'all, we need to do something, we need to do something, we need to do something." And the change didn't come until he had allies who came in. And you see that in the scripture very clearly that they keep saying, defend the widows, defend the orphans. They don't have anybody to fight for them. Stand up in their stead, stand up on their behest. Come in and help. Don't see injustice and not do anything. But you have to have the power in the interaction. And each of us could be in one of those different groups depending on the group that we're in. We could be oppressed in this group and influencer in that group. Right? And we have the same responsibility. Or we could be oppressed and oppressor. Right? We could be the oppressor in our homes while being oppressed by our society. We could be oppressed in our homes and see oppression next door and have the power to step in and intervene on other people's behalf. And we have those shared responsibilities.
And I think there's no one size fits all answer though, because I feel like at the end of the day, you remembering that God should be above all your choices, your decisions. If he tells you to do XYZ, XYZ is what you're supposed to do. Now, whether or not it looks like you're being unruly or whatever, if that's what he told you to do, that's what you do. Now, if he tells you just go to the courts and go make protest, if that whatever it is he told you to do, that's what you do. Now, if you're stepping outside of what he told you, then that's your boundary. You have now crossed that line. The line for you in one instant might be a different line for you in another instant.
Correct. I mean, think about the children of Israel. Even before Jacob was born, he was like, then people will be enslaved for 400 years. And they were, until God decided he was ready to release them. And he sent somebody to free them. Someone with influence, someone who could talk to Pharaoh. And Moses came in the same time and said, let my people go. God could have come in and strong-armed Pharaoh. Yo, I'm taking my stuff. Raise up. Give me that. God continued to say, I know you're in control over there, but I need my people. I need my people. And if you don't give me my people, I have to. So I'm asking you, I'm showing you respect for your position. Give me my people. And eventually what Pharaoh did is give his people. God didn't just snatch the people out. He convinced Pharaoh to bow to worship him. And Pharaoh turned his back again and came back around. But he's respectful of those things, of those spaces. You wonder, well, why does God let the beast run around in Revelation and do all of that? Because the beast was given authority. Like, if you go to it was. Let's go quickly to Luke chapter 4, right? Because
I was gonna say we were reading it this week.
Yeah. Luke chapter 4.
Yeah,
verse 6. Can we go ahead and read it? 5 and 6. I mean, just look at the devil's language there.
Then he led Jesus up to a high mountain and displayed before him all the kingdoms of the inhabited earth and their magnificence. In the twinkling of an eye. And the devil said to him, I will give you all this realm and its glory, its power, its renown, because it has been handed over to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Therefore, if you worship before me, it will all be yours. Jesus replied to him, "It is written and forever remains written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve only him."
Yeah.
Yeah. It was his.
It was his to do whatever he wanted with it. And God doesn't
Correct.
seem to, and you kind of ask
He
yourself,
never
why-
questioned it. He never pushed back. He never. Yeah.
what God did was legitimately unseat him and take back his authority through the death of Jesus. Like you don't just see God coming and strong arming him and taking it back by force. He's like legitimately lost his position, and now it's Jesus. Because you dare see Jesus at the end of Matthew says, "All authority on the heaven and earth is now mine."
Correct.
Because I did this, I now own it legitimately. He no longer owns it. Jesus and all before that was referring to him as the prince of this world and respected his position as such. So there appears to be this kind of honor system and respect for people's domains, and God wants people to respect where he is. I am above all of it. So back to your question, Courtney, an idol is anything that is a god that you worship, and don't worship in terms of liturgy, but worship in terms of give homage to, order your follow along with their commands, their wishes, their will, usually in direct contravention to what the God of heaven says.
Okay.
So yes, it could be your phone, but it's not necessarily your phone.
Gotcha.
It's not magic either.
It's not what?
It's not Magic Johnson either.
Oh, imagine.
I mean, maybe for the Showtime Lakers it was, but not for me.
Oh,
Lauren, I'm going to bring you in now with your question from 1 Peter, if that's still something you want to ask.
You said this is Lorraine?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was First Peter 2, verse 20 to 21 that triggered my question. So it's saying, of course, you get no credit for being patient if you are beaten for doing wrong. But if you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, God is pleased with you. For God called you to do good, even if it means suffering, just as Christ suffered for you. He is your example, and you must follow his steps. And my question was, how does one suffer patiently? Because part of my thought was, it's like we have, so he talks about following his example. It's like we have maybe two extreme perspectives of Jesus. So we have like the very passive, oh, all is right, everything's fine. And then, you know, on the other hand, some are like, no, like, have you seen how God moved? Like, did you see how, you know?
Oh, you're saying people's perspectives of.
Yeah, people's
Oh,
perspectives.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, people's perspectives. That's usually two extremes.
Yep, I got
But
you.
he's saying he's the example, and we're supposed to suffer patiently because that is what he's pleased with. How does one suffer patiently? Because suffering sucks. So it's like he said, you know, suffering for wrong versus suffering for right. I'm like, I get it, but I don't know how I would patiently suffer because I do want to get out of that thing. I don't want whatever that thing is to continue. So I guess I was trying to get more something I can hold on to in the suffering.
Mm.
An anchor.
Mm. Have you ever seen The Passion of the Christ?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna just ask that question and then let somebody else respond. First, I just want to set that imagery in your mind. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? How do you suffer patiently? Gary, I'm sure your father has talked to you about that a few times. I'm sure he's left you some kind of pearls of wisdom in that regard.
Oh, the first thing he'll always say is he would quote that I think it's one of the Beatitudes, right? Blessed are you when men shall revile you and say all manner of evil against you falsely,
Mm-hmm.
for so persecuted they the prophets before you. And I think that's the key thing. Sometimes we think we're suffering, but it's suffering we brought upon ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we stay in the suffering really out of pride because we want to appear as though we're so, oh, this is just the world out to get me or whatever. But the key thing is if you live in such a way that if you're living right, it will offend people and it will cause people to target you. And if because of their offense and you being targeted from living right, you're persecuted, then that is where you can exemplify suffering patiently. But if it's stuff you've brought on yourself, then you can't really pat yourself on the back and be like,
What
woe is me, I'm undone.
the patiently, I think, um, is. I mean, at some point. So I don't think when you're in a situation, and I should say
Hmm.
that there are times when God needs you to be in a particular situation in order for you
Hmm.
to to learn a lesson or to get something or prevent you from encountering something else, like whatever it is, like the reasons. But I think the patiently more speaks to the mindset of not being anxious,
Hmm.
not being not worrying, the doubting of whether or not you are valued, you are. I think the patiently more in my speaks more to that than
Hmm.
like just sitting there waiting um, and not doing.
And that was the other. So that was the part too. So one is you're suffering rightly. It's for standing up for the right, and there's a consequence for it, so you suffer. But then even in the suffering, it's how you suffer. Very often, if you're in a tough situation, you're most anxious, to your point, Kenrick, just to get through it, get to the end,
Correct.
not understanding that there's a purpose in the process. And if you try to skip the process, you might come out the other side, but you wouldn't have gained what you needed to gain. So it's like you go to the gym and there's this routine for you to practice, every day, 4 days a week. The strength comes in the process. And if you skip the process, then you lose the benefit of the strength. So
So
if your mindset is just like, oh God, I'm suffering, I just need to get to the end of this, I'm tired, this has been so long. If that's your mindset, you're gonna miss
correct.
the whole point. Patience,
So
right?
the definition of patiently, it's an adverb
Hmm.
at the ly. It was a good dead giveaway. But in a way that shows tolerance of delays,
Right.
problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious.
Mm. That annoyed is hard though. Not getting annoyed, that's hard. That's real
Correct.
hard.
But I think the annoyed, but I also think like to make it biblical, it's the object of that annoyance, right? It's the object of the anxiousness. I think that is where the how does one suffer patiently is understanding that the person, your creator, put you here and knows you're here, right? Has not left you, does not intend to leave you, uh, will always be with you. And so, yeah, it's uncomfortable because it does say suffer, right? The suffer it doesn't mean it's going to be pleasant, right? But it also tries to provide perspective as to who put you here. So don't put your anxiousness and what was the other one? And annoyance to God.
It sounds nice, but there's different levels to suffering, right? And so it's easier to say it when your suffering is challenges in the workplace. It's easy to say when it's like, for example, people who are in much worse situations that are going through suffering that a lot of us wouldn't make it 2 minutes into, right? It's easy to say, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's easy to say, don't be annoyed, don't be anxious when you've been in the thing for years. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to like.
So I will jump in here and say you're right, Lorraine. Suffering is difficult, and depending on your threshold and your circumstances, I don't think we could compare any one circumstance to the other. But for very many of us, we would say, this is very difficult, and that's challenging. And you see that very clearly with like the example of Job. I would, while I agree with Jerry and Kenrick, I would shift emphasis points just slightly away from the process and coming through the process, because Job had no idea what was going on and thought this was the rest of his life. And at the time that he shows up and sees God, he has no idea that something is going to change. And God's expectation of him was to adjust his mindset if situation doesn't change.
Right? Correct. And I think that's what I was pointing to. It wasn't the getting through the process. It was during the process acknowledging the fact that this is not necessarily, even if it doesn't end, understand where it's not coming from. Like,
cool. Yes. And that's where I want to go. I want to go to James 1 verse 2, not for the message that's here, but for the language and the word that's here, because it introduces a very powerful idea that I think is helpful. Right? So James 1 verse 2. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. The word for trials there, hold on, let me get it, because this was a powerful idea for me. James 1 verse 2. Courtney's version says diverse temptations. The word there is parasmos. And it's an interesting concept because it could be in temptation or trial, because both are two sides of the same coin. The word there says a putting to proof by, experiment of, good experience, an experiment. So I'm gonna go to the Thayer's definition: an experiment, an attempt, a trial, a proving. Trial, a proving. The trial made of you by my bodily conditions, since conditions serve as a test to the love of Galatians. Sorry, that was a little confusing. I'm gonna keep going. The trial of a man's fidelity, his integrity, his virtue, his consistency. So whether by temptation, do what is wrong, or trial, stop doing what is right, both situations work towards the same objective: to prove faithfulness, to prove fidelity. And I think suffering patiently is not allowing your suffering to cause you to stop being faithful, which is what you see with Jesus. Which is why he went and he spent all this time praying in the Garden of Gethsemane in advance, to kind of fortify his faithfulness so that whatever comes, and he went through an immense amount of suffering, he didn't bend away from faithfulness. Because the devil came at his weakest point at the very beginning and did the exact same thing, tried to lure him away from faithfulness. And when trying to get him to do the wrong thing didn't work, he put immense pressure on him to stop him from doing the right thing. And Jesus had a hard time with that. It was a stressful situation for him, such that he was sweating blood in anticipation of it. He bust blood vessels in his head that caused the real condition. But he maintained his faithfulness to God in his suffering. And I think that is where the patience is. It's in staying connected to God and staying faithful to him, as Kenry points out, because of who he is to you, because of your relationship, your love for him, and your understanding of his love for you. You're going to remain faithful despite my circumstance. My circumstance is not going to push me into a space of unfaithfulness. And so I will suffer patiently, because the intent of the suffering is to prove my fidelity. My mother, when she was sick, made this song her well, I would say made this song her, it became her favorite hymn. And it's in understanding this that I was able to make sense of that. And first of all, the story behind this song is that the chick who wrote it, what is her name? Caroline Sandel. She wrote this song after she saw her dad die from drowning. And the orientation of her mind is powerful, because she says, day by day and with each passing moment, strength I find to meet my trials here. Trusting in my Father's wise bestowment, I have no cause for worry or for fear. And this is the line that my mother repeated that stuck with me. He whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best. Lovingly it's mixed with pain and pleasure, mingling toil with peace and rest. That idea of he whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best. If he thinks that this is what's best in this moment, I trust it, and now I suffer patiently. And then she goes on to say, every day the Lord himself is near me with a special mercy for each hour. All of my cares he gladly bears and cheers me, whose name is Counselor and Power. The protection of his child and treasure is a charge that on himself he laid. As your days, your strength shall be in major. This the pledge to me he has made, which to me is a statement of, I have to affirm for myself and remind myself that he's taking care of me. One of the things that struck me is that in Revelation, it talks about Revelation. Let's go there. Woman and the dragon. Yeah, Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12, we're going to go from verse 1 through 6. Go ahead, Lorraine, you can read that.
So 1 through what?
1 through 6.
Okay. All right. Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, and she cried out because of her labor pains and the agony of giving birth. Then I witnessed in heaven another significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his head. His tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky, and he threw them to the earth. He stood in front of the woman as she was about to give birth, ready to devour her baby as soon as it was born. She gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was snatched away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness.
Pause, take your time and read this verse because I was
Okay.
setting up for this verse in the reading. So this is the key verse.
And the woman fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,200.
Where did God take her to care for her? An oasis? What place did God prepare for her to be cared for and protected?
The wilderness.
Yeah. An uncomfortable, dry, hot place full of dangerous animals with no water and no growing food and no running water and no place to poop. Wilderness is uncomfortable. That's the place he did to protect her. Here's another example. When the Israelites were coming out of Egypt, God was like, if we take the direct path, they'll end up in the Philistines and go to war. So I'm going to take them around the long way, where for them it's going to be uncomfortable. Why are we going past here? There's no water past it. This don't make no sense. This place is uncomfortable. What you doing, God? If I take you over here, you're going to try to go back to Egypt. You will try to be unfaithful here. So I'm taking you around here to preserve your faithfulness. One of the things, and I'm saying this because I got a chance to glimpse it from afar. My mother was very independent. Right? I remember, and I tell the story to Kenrick before, so I know he's heard it. When she was suffering with her lupus, her knees wasn't so good and her joints wasn't so good, and so she was walking around on a little crutch, right? You know, she was always on these pain meds and all them things. This is while I was still living there before I moved up here. And she asked me to clean to sweep the kitchen. And you know how men and women are when women give instructions, whether it be mothers or wives, they want it done now, and the man says, "I'll get to it because you didn't tell me when you wanted it done," right?
Facts.
So when I done watching my show, or I done playing my game, or whatever, I'm gonna do it. And she really wanted now. I was finishing my show and was going to sweep the living room, this kitchen, you know, eventually. But before my show done, I look up and she there in the kitchen with her crutch in one hand and the broom in the next, and she don't want to wait on me to. She had to do it now. Fast forward a few years, that kind of independent mindset. I'm gonna do for me. I don't have to wait on nobody. And it's a whole different lady. She was waiting on somebody to come and pick her up. And she's like, well, I don't know if they're coming. I don't know what's going on, but I hear. And it was a whole night and day difference. I'm depending on God. God will get me there if he wants me to get there, when he wants me to get there. We had a complete reliance on him. And in relying on him, she had to rely on other people. And I was like, that is not Janice Taylor. She's not like that at all. And it dawned on me, borrowing a line from Malcolm X, that God will save us by any means necessary. He could fix her body with a touch, but that independent spirit, that's something that has to be, I don't say broken out of her, but she had to develop that contrite heart to get there on her own. That is not something he could touch and fix. And so I'm not saying he gave her lupus to do that, but I am saying that the experience of lupus has brought her to the place of dependency that I don't know she would have come to any other way. Maybe. But he whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he seems best. Because his priority is our character. That's the thing that he has to burn the dregs out. And what's the word, Kenrick? The dross off of
The
us.
dross.
He could raise people from the dead. He could touch and make people heal by the word of. But that whole character thing, that whole dependence on me thing, that requires process. And sometimes he has a different priority than us and is seeing things in that kind of way. So suffering patiently is about trusting that God cares for me and loves me enough. One of my mother's phrases was, "I am God's spoiled child," which means I am being treated special. I'm the one that he loves more than everybody else. And she put it on the back of her car, God's spoiled child. And her testimony was, yes, I'm suffering with lupus, but I am God's spoiled child, which means he treated me special. And it was painful and it was uncomfortable. And I remember the last time I talked to her, she just said she was tired. And then, that was Sunday and she was dead by Tuesday. But what I saw in the experience was someone who says, "Help me then in every tribulation, so to trust your promises, O God, that I lose not faith's sweet consolation offered me within your holy word. Help me, Lord, when toil and trouble meeting, ere to take as from a father's hand, one by one, the days, the moments fleeting, till I reach the promised land." That to me is what I understand suffering patiently to be. It's trusting that God loves me and he cares for me even in this circumstance, and I will yield even greater degrees of faithfulness. I will not allow this to move me away from faithfulness. That leads to that patience. What do you think? I know I went on a little bit of a rant there. It's a little passionate for me because it adjusted my whole experience, her experience, and so I started seeing my whole experience differently. I was like, by any means necessary, save me.
Yep.
Save me.
That's
Jared,
that you read. I just wanted what you just read. Like,
it's the words of a song called
Day
"Day
by
by
Day.
Day." It's a hymn. It's a hymn called "Day by Day."
okay,
The title of the song is by Caroline W. Sandalberg.
all right.
Day by day and with each passing moment is the first line of the song.
Jared, Luan has my little sister Luan has been battling lupus for, I don't know, maybe 20 odd years now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and coincidentally, that's her favorite hymn as well. So we had a reunion a couple weeks ago, and my oldest daughter Gabby actually played it on cello. But it's funny seeing. I don't know anybody who is always more patient and joyous and peaceful than Luan. And I mean, when she has, how lupus is. When she has bad days, she has bad days. I know sometimes, because we try to do this prayer thing every morning, and there are days when she's struggling just to speak, but still so positive, so whatnot, and then it's like it makes you reflect, like, what am I? My boss is annoying me. It's like, really, in the scheme of things, what do you complain about, right? But I've seen where she has that patience in suffering, and I think it's I tell her this all the time. That is one of the things I not just respect, but I think I admire the most about her, and I want to say I want to learn to emulate it, but of course emulating it means any means necessary, right? Any means necessary. Wow.
I was told by a number of people because I remember when she started to get sick and she get hospitalized, and people were saying, "Your mother about to die. You need to come. You need to come. Your mother's, she's not gonna make it. Come." Every time I talked to her, she was in cheerful spirits. "Boy, I good. Don't study them. I good. I good." Right? That's what she was saying. And then when she did pass, I came and I spoke to a number of people who went to see her in the hospital, and they all said they went to encourage her and left encouraged.
Yep.
Because them words that she just there, "He whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives on day," those were her watchwords. That's how she lived.
Yep.
It's like, I can't walk, but I need to go in this store. If I don't get a parking space by the front, God don't want me to go in there. And she would turn around and go home. And when she had to wait on people, she's like, boy, I don't know. I just waiting on God, and it was a trans. I getting all of this over the phone, right? Because I talking to her, because I can't see it, and all I could listen to is her perspective on it, um and her other favorite song was Fred Hammond's "All Things Are Working for Me," even things I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that it would let it be for my good, so I'll rest and just believe. And like that's how she started to live. And there was in the pain and in the nights of all night crying and all of that, there was a different kind of presence, and a level of submission to his will that brought peace. And it oriented me to Philippians 4, or is it 2? It oriented me to that and gave that new meaning for me personally, and I had to kind of adopt that for myself. Be anxious for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind in Jesus. I experienced it, like I shouldn't be okay right now. I shouldn't be meant. This peace that I'm experiencing don't make sense because it transcends understanding. Yeah. Be anxious for nothing. I think what's her name? Joyce Meyer wrote a book called Be Anxious for Nothing that unpacks that a little bit more. And I highly recommend it to anybody because it was transformative for me. I don't, I don't want ever to experience any kind of painful suffering. But he whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best, is the orientation I would like to have in that space, and is the orientation I'm practicing to have in this space. And I think that's what gives you that patience in suffering. Taking it from him, knowing that he loves me. He loves me. I'm his spoiled child. So ain't nothing happening to me that didn't get blessed by him and that he didn't sanction and that he's not going to take care of. So bring it on. Let it come. That's easier said than done. But that's the orientation that allows you to patiently suffer. Vanessa said, "Mercy, what a song." She went on to say, "I'm not liking this conversation." And then she went on to say, "Today I realized my wilderness is drier than I thought, and the process will last longer than I cared for." Cliff, I know you came in at the tail end of my, what's that, rant? Any thoughts there from you?
It wasn't rant.
I didn't see it as a rant at all. I was just actually listening. I did come in on the tail end, and I'm always feel some kind of way when I don't get here on time like I want to. So I try to tune in to listen, and I'm just sitting up here listening, and I was like, man, something is off. So I was listening to a completely different show and trying to catch up, and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, we did this already, and I was like,
wrong
You
episode.
didn't notice you in the.
Well, no, I wasn't there on that one on time as well.
Okay,
I was just listening, because I just hit the button and I thought it took me to the live. So I was like, something's different. And then I realized, yeah. So I'm sorry about that. So when I came in, I didn't think it was a rant. I just thought it was a great explanation of suffering through patience, especially like Vanessa when you quoted the lyrics to the song. So it's like, just things bring clarity in special meaning. So that's all I had to say.
Lauren, did we answer your question? Did we create more questions? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
What, what was Lorraine's question, if I might ask?
Lorraine's question was, how does one suffer patiently? Referencing 1 Peter 2:20.
You haven't answered it. Yeah, you answered it. I mean, I mean, I'm gonna repeat it as my takeaway, but like, because I asked for an anchor, you know, because usually when you're suffering or you're going through stuff, you're all over the place. Because it's almost like either you're panicking or you're anxious or you're unsure. Like this, nothing is calm. Like stuff just, you know, you kind of feel out of control. So I asked for an anchor, and you gave me one. You know, remembering who he is and that he's very intentional about what he does. And if I remember his character and who he is, then that should be enough to hold me through whatever experiences I have in the time period that I'm chosen to be here.
Good.
It'll be easy, but I think that is probably where that peace that passes all understanding, because you're almost like resting in who he is.
Received. It reminded me of a question we asked earlier in the year. Is God's presence enough? Remember that question, Kenneth?
I do.
When we were studying Joseph, and it was like, in all of what was happening with Joseph, the Lord was with him. And I was like, is God's presence enough in all my stuff? And I think that's knowing. It made me think about that, because as you talked about fear and anxiousness, I remember the sermon from Henry Wright called The Fungus of Fear, where Wright says that because fear is relational, God's answer to it is, fear not, I am with you. If you are secure in the fact that he is with you, then nothing that is happening with you is anything to worry about, which is why Jesus could sleep on the bottom of a boat that appears to be sinking, right? So that idea, those two ideas were pivotal for me. Fear not, I am with you. And the lyric from the song, you know. Yeah.
Fear is relational because how is fear relational?
You're afraid of something or someone. So it is tied to something.
It's tied to something else. Okay.
Yes. It's relational in that regard.
Gotcha.
All right. Karen, did you have anything?
I think I did.
Okay.
But go ahead if you got something else. Go.
I had like 5 things. I had like 5 things going on over here, so I wanted to give other people a chance to.
No, go ahead. Let me if there's time, I'll pull mine up. Let me get through mine. But yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'll go with one that ain't gonna take too long. So Daniel 11:35. This was just an observation that made me go, you know, all the song things that make you go. That's all the song goes, right?
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Daniel 11:35. I was like, where have I not seen this before?
You said Daniel?
Yeah, Daniel 11:35. But I want to. Could you read that in one of your versions? Not one of the easy to read versions. What does that say in the King James version? Daniel 11:35.
King James.
Yeah.
To get back. All right. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
Cool. Kevin, what version you have, and what does your version say?
I'm sorry, I was looking at something else.
All right, cool. Cliff, what do you have there? The same version?
I'm reading it from the Amplified today.
Okay, go ahead. 11:30. Yeah, 11:35.
35. Some of those who are spiritually wise and have insight will fall as martyrs in order to refine, to purge, and to make those among God's people pure until the end time, because it is yet to come at the time appointed by God.
So they'll fall and be martyrs.
Hmm.
Okay. The New International Version says some of the wise will stumble so that they may be refined, purified, and made spotless until the end of time, for it will still come at the appointed time.
Hmm.
And I thought it was interesting that he was saying the stumbling, the falling, the not living up to scratch of some of the wise people is part of their refinement process. That's what I thought it was saying. That's why I was asking what the other version said. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, God.
Hmm.
That stumbling is a part of the refinement process to be purified. Man, what a concept. Yeah, that's
Courtney,
it for me. It was also encouraging.
oh. Courtney, do you have your Sefer with you or your Sefer? Sefer? I say Sefer, some say Sefer. I was wondering if it said anything different, and that's what I read it in this week, but I didn't have it with me right now.
All right,
I'm quite sure it's close to it.
you got it. Oh, here we go.
While Courtney's looking for that, it cross-referenced with Psalm 66, which I thought was even more interesting because it seemed like a similar or expansion of the idea. It said, yes, Psalm 66, 9 through 12. He has preserved our lives and kept our feet from slipping. For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. You let people ride over our heads. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole stumbling, falling, to be refined in fire and water, it just felt like it was an echo at the time that I read this. And so I was like, wow. Don't feel too down on yourself when you stumble. It could be a part of the refinement process, is what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's what it says, I'm just saying that's what I heard.
Right. All right. Hey, Cliff. It reads similar. It says,
Okay.
"And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed." It's like
So when you read it, where I guess my thought was sometimes we think we know it all, and I feel like it's like we're wise in our own eyes. We know, you know what I mean? That's what I thought of when you said it, like almost like, oh yeah, I know this. Or it's like, guys, like you don't know nothing. You know nothing. That's
You
what
don't know now.
So this put you through a refining process. Let you really realize that you don't know nothing at all. Like the wisdom of the world is foolishness.
Oh.
Yeah. Good. All right, Kenneth, I got one, and that means I make space for you.
Jesus didn't come to save everybody.
You didn't?
He didn't.
Okay, tell me more. Unpack that.
And that's troubling.
Tell me more. Unpack that for me. I'd like to hear more about what you're seeing there. I'm not disagreeing with you or agreeing with you. Just interested in hearing.
Yeah, no. So Luke 5.
All right.
I read so much in Luke, I just kept reading. But so Luke 5, I had all this stuff and it's now gone. Is down. I think he's at Levi's house for the dinner. Yeah, so it's Luke 5:31. Let's start.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus replied, well, I guess let's start at 29. So Levi Matthew gave a great banquet for him at his house. There was a large crowd of tax collectors and others who were reclining at the table with them. The Pharisees and their scribes began murmuring in discontent to his disciples, asking, "Why are you eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners?" And Jesus replied to them, "It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but only those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous who see no need to repent, but sinners to repentance." So then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, John 3:16, and it was like you only came to like, well, I guess we'll read it. It was just
I took
so
that to
three.
mean like he didn't come for those who feel like they don't need a savior. Like if you don't need a savior, then I'm not coming for you. I'm coming for the ones that
Well,
know.
so for God so loved the world, he dearly prized the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him and trusts in him shall not perish. Like he only came for
And
those who believe and trust.
oh, he
He
came
come
for all of us,
for
but
nobody else.
he was like, "Oh no, we don't need you," and he's like, "All right, I'll go to these ones.
He
Like,
said,
you don't need me."
only come for people that believe and trust in me, and I only come for the sick. I didn't come here
Yeah,
for the
because
healthy.
if you don't believe or trust, you can't avail yourself for salvation anyway, because you don't even
Correct.
see a need for it.
That's what I'm saying. So he didn't come for them. He
But
only
this
came
goes
for.
back to what Jared is saying about by any means necessary. So he will allow things because he can't force your will, but he might allow things or allow a Nebuchadnezzar, Pharaoh, whatever in your life to get you to the point where you trust and believe.
I see where you're going, Kenrick. I think I agree with you. I have. I'm troubled by the way you present it, even though I do agree with you conceptually. Um, the way you're saying it, it could say that he didn't come for everybody. He came to bring opportunity for everybody, understanding that everybody is not going to win. But he's coming for. He can only take people who meet this criteria.
Correct.
He's offering the opportunity to meet this criteria to everybody, but he can only take people who meet this criteria. Because if he does take people who don't meet that criteria, the
Correct.
environment gets reinfected.
Correct. Yes.
So you have to be disease free.
So he only came for disease free,
For those who
or
would like
who
to be disease-free,
acknowledge that they are diseased, and he's the
who
only
avail
one who
themselves
can
of the medicine.
disease free them.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I have a shot here for you if you want it.
Correct.
But you had to take the shot to come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very few Americans will make it. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with that. And you'll even see it in his messaging, right?
Correct.
He's like, I'm gonna invite you. If you pass an invitation, cool. I'm gonna go. You were
Well, you
invited.
listen, you see a couple of parables. Like you go through the whole thing, and I was sitting here, and I was just like, and I was just going through like, dude, like, yeah, it's nobody. Like, I'm only coming for you.
And he even sent his disciples out in the same kind of manner. Just go and invite them and tell them. And
Yeah, they say something to you, dust your shoes off, and
And it's like that parable where he was like, I used to think that's how my understanding of that parable is the one where he was like, he had the field that whoever the owner of the field had, and he sent out different people out there to give them, enlighten them to their sickness. And they was like, ah. And then he was like, okay, I'll send my son. They'll definitely respect it. They were like, nah, let's kill him. Be the last one.
My kids have a huge problem with that parable.
why is that?
That's like, why do you send a son? Like what?
We
walk
walk
through it, but then we're just like, yo, like you've already killed. Like why you go send? And I was like, I would send you. Like they gotta respect you.
Yeah.
And they were like, we hate this parable. Clearly, you didn't learn your lesson.
I would say that idea seems to be not opposed, but the way I have been, the way the environments I have been a part of have addressed evangelism. It doesn't have that kind of I'm just bringing you some information for you to make a choice.
100%.
It's
100%.
not that kind of
100%.
it is a whole kind of I'm a get you to change your mind kind of
And
approach.
it kind of comes, it goes, not to rehash the point that was being made to Lorraine's question, but it goes back to the fact that people have, I think we are very uncomfortable naturally, right, with just letting God be God and letting him have that much control where it actually doesn't matter. like you just play your position, dog, and let him do what he's supposed to do. Let the Holy Spirit do his job. It's not your, and I'm uncomfortable with that. Not from like an evangelism perspective, but like from like my life perspective. There are things that I like to control. I like to, I want to have a say. I should have a say, and I operate many times that way when it's like, no, dog, like you give yourself no breath, no life. You didn't, nothing
Everything
when you're
you
asleep.
needed was here when you reach.
Yeah, like everything, from nipples to diapers to all of that. Like you were provided for. You've been provided for since you gave birth. I mean, since you were given birth to.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's part of this our control issues.
Do you think that's only natural considering you were made in the image of God?
Oh, here you go.
I mean,
Here
if you're
you
made in
go.
this image, you ain't think that's someone that will rub off on you?
Here you go.
Isn't that what it means to be godlike?
I am not.
I don't know.
I'm not even having this conversation now.
You messing around.
I'm not even having this conversation.
That was nice.
Like I'm talking to KRS-One.
That's gonna be a hard conversation.
All right, I have two things more. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna choose things that aren't gonna take us too long. The first one I had will take us a ways down. So both of the next two are coming out of Psalm 63 and then Psalm 67.
I'll be reading this for the first time.
Psalm 63 verse 3. Wait, let's go with Psalm 67. We'll come back to Psalm 63. Psalm 67. Psalm 67, 1 and 2 and 6 and 7. Courtney, I'm gonna let you read.
Okie dokie. 67
One-
verse. You said
1
1
and 2, 1 and 2 and 6 and 7.
Okay. 67, 1 and 2, and then 6 and 7.
Mhm.
God be merciful unto us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us, that they may be known upon earth, thy saving health among all nations. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our own God, shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him.
I'm reading my version. It says, "May God be gracious to us and bless us, and make his face to shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth, your salvation among all the nations. The land yields its harvest. God, our God, blesses us. May God bless us still, so that the ends of the earth will fear him." And I thought to myself, Jared, do you pray with God in mind? Are your requests rooted in God's benefit?
Do you pray with God in mind?
Or am I praying with myself in mind? Like this thing is saying, be merciful to us, bless us, shine your face on us, so that you could be made known.
Mm-hmm.
When I ask God for stuff, am I
I
praying
understand
with
what you're
Him
saying.
in mind or with me in mind?
Sure.
May God bless us still, so that the ends of the earth will fear Him. Am I concerned about Him being respected and feared and worshipped through my prayers and my asks and my wants? Is that even a concern for me? Or are my prayers about me? That's what I reflected on that, and I was curious to think, do you guys pray like that with that in mind?
I do both.
Yeah, I was gonna say there.
Sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes it's all about me, and then sometimes the "Let Your Light So Shine Before Men" is always like it's always in there. So even in what I'm asking, I'm hoping that it adds to the kingdom and it blesses other people and points them to. But sometimes it's like,
Yeah, I think I'm both as well.
That's what's up.
I try to be conscientious of it.
That's what's up. How about you, Jerry?
I'm both, but I definitely want to be the former, praying with him in mind a lot more. I think that is the manner. And he says in like manner we should also pray. If we pray in that manner, I'm sure the prayers will get answered a lot more frequently.
I want to know that. I want you guys to know y'all make me feel like a heathen today, but that's okay.
But you are. You're
I am. That's my take.
you're armed and dangerous.
Sure, that's my take.
How about you, Cliff?
Yeah, the question made me really think about that. I mean, I think that ultimately I'm selfish. I mean, if I think about it, I mean, I pray for everyone. I pray for individuals. I pray for people's prayer requests. I do that. I ask God to live through my life, but I think ultimately, man, I still am selfish in a lot of ways. My prayer recently, and I mean for a while, has been I got to get this relationship with him together, man. That's just it. I feel like our relationship is just not there yet. It's there, but it's not there. You know what I mean?
And is that in of itself, because you're praying about your relationship with him, selfish?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's still. I've said this statement before, man. We don't like to be told what to do. Period. Even by God, we just don't like to be told what to do, and a lot of our decisions come from us, like you were saying earlier, Kerry, just want to have control and relinquishing control of everything in all aspects of my life, man, is difficult.
Correct.
And I hate using that word because when I'm in session, I'm telling folks to stop using try and difficult and just do. You know what I mean? You don't use those words, you just do. And I find it challenging.
It's that vocabulary, yeah.
So you so you increase your vocabulary and find synonyms in order for you to not to say, come on now.
But how about you?
Man, I think I'm struggling with it too. Just to, I think I pray a lot about His will being done. So I think now is the more we have these sessions together, Bible studies together, I felt myself changing. I have to remind myself mid prayer. I'll be almost like, all right, enough about me. Let me stop asking about me for a minute, and I try to think about other things, other people, other concerns. Or sometimes it's just that thought of, all right, God wants to know my desires, right? He wants to know what I'm thinking, all right. But then I'm like, all right, well, what do you want? I want to know what you want from me. And then I'm like, all right, what about these other people I interact with? And then I'll start talking to them about God. You know what? I really can't stand person A, B, C, and you want to pray for them, right? So
the people you can't stand.
Yeah, I can't. Like I'm saying, like somebody, like if maybe they treating me foul, but I'm supposed to still think
I
about.
thought you was gonna say those people that be holding up the passing lane. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, something like that.
Them too.
But just to be in the thought process that in my prayer that, hey, let me pray for people, like even those, the ones that's where I'm at now with the challenge of, all right, not just only the people that are dear to me and we cool, but what about the people that they might be treating me kind of away, and for me to think about them that type of way, like I want good for them, even though they're so that's where my struggles is in prayer too, and talking to the Lord about that. You know what I mean? Because I laugh when I think about Jeremiah, right? He just like, man, Lord, don't let them off the hook that is doing all this stuff to me. And I'm like, I feel you, but are you supposed to be like that? Like,
I think it's both and, personally. I think it's both and. Because David prayed both ways. And now we have the prayers in the Bible. Yeah, I think part of being human and part of being in relationship with God, as Cliff is alluding to, is being in relationship and being able to say that.
And I think too, sometimes people don't pray most times that way because they always tell you, be careful what you pray for.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever prayed that prayer because I don't want anybody to pray that prayer on me. Like I refuse. I'm not saying karma. I'm just saying like doing to others as you would have them. I'm not praying that prayer. Like, yo, take them out.
But even the one like regarding his will, like, Lord, what do you want? It's like,
that's a very.
You really want to know? You really want to know?
I go totally upside down if we do it the way I want to do it.
That's a very. My mom used to pray that prayer when I was disobedient. Like, whatever you have to do, Lord. Like, whatever your will is. Like, take his legs, And I'm like, yo, like, don't like. No, don't.
I believe in prayer. Don't pray that.
We got conflicting prayers going on. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, my dad used to joke and say, I believe in prayer. So if Serena Williams show up by the door, don't pray for him. Don't pray for him. Hold your prayers, please.
Those are facts. Those are facts.
All right, Psalm 63, verse 3.
All right, 63.
I'm going to read this one. And then I'm going to have Courtney read in his version because I want to hear what the other version says.
Is this a different topic?
Yes, I was going to shift unless you want to.
So are you good on your?
Yeah. It was a reflective question for me that I was posing to you guys to hear what your thoughts are, and see how much of a heathen I was. What kind of company I was in. I was in a company of heathens. Cliff is the only heathen here with me, and me and Cliff still working our way up. Everybody else like further along on the road up there. I'm kidding. Psalm 63 verse 3. Because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I know
King James.
Yeah, go ahead, Cody.
King James says, because thy loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise thee.
That's the only true R&B song right there.
This is only King James.
Was that?
Huh?
Yeah, no, that's the only. So I'll when we get off tonight, I'm gonna read this. That's a true R&B, like, because everything else is like you're my wind, you're my air, you're my, like, no, you're not. Like, I can breathe without you, dog. Like, but like this, like, that's true.
Wow,
that's 100% true.
This is a moment.
So my question to myself, and I guess to you guys, is: has his love ever been better than life? When? Why? Why not? And then what qualifies to be better than life? What does that even mean? Better
right.
Than life?
That was gonna be my question.
Better than life?
Mm-hmm. Let's go down to verse 5. I will praise you, verse 4. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. Because your love is better than life, verse 3, I will be fully satisfied as with the richest foods. Like fully satisfied by his love. What is that? What does that mean? What does that look like? Have you ever experienced it?
I'm sure I have, but I was thinking about
God's
not.
love is like God's love is all you need. You're just full of God's love.
Well, have I? I'm sure I've experienced. I probably experience it every day, right?
His love, but
His
making
his
you
love.
satisfied.
Well, that's the thing. So, I I I never look at it that way,
Oh, okay.
and so I'm kind of like an ingrate. Like it's not like it's like it's. I think I'm very presumptuous in my goings and comings when it comes to God, and I never necessarily. So number one, I'm not a lover. Like I love Jewel. I'm a lover, right? But I'm not. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm a physical lover. Like I'm a like I'm no, it's not helping, Jerry. Um, I don't get into like all the feelings of love, right? It's I'm a very logical. Maybe that's what I said. I'm a logical. Like I love, but I don't. I'm not into
You love
like
logically.
You're a
I
mental lover,
I
a lover of the mind.
And the
no. I
body.
love. I love. I love. I love
Yeah,
other things other than money.
yeah,
But
yeah.
The beautiful thing about this is watching you try to get out of this hole.
but what I guess I'm just not like I'm not a feely person. Like when he says like I love you, like that makes sense to me. I don't think I've ever really felt that.
Mm-hmm.
Just being who I am. Does that make sense?
I agree. I understand.
All right.
Jerry, have you ever felt that? Is that something you could say, yeah, I've been there. I know what that feels like. I know what that
Felt or experienced or both?
experience. Let's go with experience
Experience,
rather than
yes,
felt.
and felt.
Really?
Yeah.
You care to share about that experience?
After show.
Okay.
And I'm making a note so I don't forget this time.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Before you go, I would like to pull out from you, what does better than life mean to you? I know you, without going into the experience, can you describe what that is?
Yeah. It's for me it was it's like where I was with God, life was meaningless without that.
Mhm.
I couldn't find, regardless of what else I had, if I didn't have that, there wasn't really any substance or meaning or beauty or peace or joy or anything in life.
Wow. Now I want to hear the story.
Mm.
Lauren, have you ever been there? Do you know what that feels like? Have you ever experienced that? Where that has been your testimony. Because your love is better than life, I will insert X here.
I don't know. I mean, in hindsight, because life is still going, right? So, in hindsight, looking back, similar to what Jerome was saying, you're like, man, what was I doing? Like, there's no going back for me. I think mentally for me, all I want is God. It's just sometimes my decisions and choices don't line up. Like at my core, I know that's what I want, but somehow, I guess that's that war, right? So it's like, this is what I really want. This is, I know is important, but I still make the very much.
And are you asking about a feeling, Jared? Like also
Well,
like somebody puts a blanket around you and you just feel comfort and warm and all
Gooey Kevin.
good. Yes.
I guess it could be that, but I guess my emphasis was more in terms of verse 5, being fully satisfied, fully content, as if with the richest foods, where I don't need anything else because this is all that I need. I would say my space has been, I want to have this, but I would like to have these things too. It's not like where Jerry's like, nothing can make sense without this. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. I want to have that, but there's all these other things I want to have too. Fully satisfied just with his God, without better life. I don't know that I've ever experienced better than life. Because your love is better than life. I couldn't imagine what that experience is. So I was looking to hear how others experience it, and it could be feelings, it could be other things. Courtney, have you ever been there? Has that ever been your testimony? Can you speak to that, or where you've had that experience? And it could have been just for a time.
I texted you. You get my
I know
text.
it's like that like moral fatness, like implying like even a satisfaction like beyond like your needs. Like you already more than you can't even man, I don't know. I can't even lie. Like think about something like that.
Just off his love alone, just his love has been such that to you that you just, man, I'm good. I have his love. I'm good. I don't need nothing else.
Right. Man, I think there was a point in my life where I felt humbled by circumstance to a point where it feels as though, nothing was going right, worst spot to be in. And I felt as though until I embraced God in that way, it's almost like, I don't know if he orchestrated it, but it felt like everything else was taken and all I had was him there, you know what I mean? And once I took that on as, all right, this is my priority, then it felt as though everything else started to come about. So now I feel as though with all that can come on through that you can gain through life, it doesn't matter to me if it was taken away from me again, because now I felt like, well, I have him. Like,
I got you. How about you, Cliff? Better than life?
When I first believed.
You care to unpack that, or you like Jerry gonna hold on for another time, another time and space?
That text relate. I relate to that. And here's the sad thing about it is I can't remember feeling that way since then. When I first knew God as my Savior, when I first embraced Adventism, when I was on fire and I was trying to convert the world, and the Holy Spirit had to tell me to slow down. Like, yo, that's my job. I can do this. And I think I've been trying to here it is. I've been trying to get back there ever since. Yeah.
I feel it, yeah. Like Courtney, I've experienced his love, and maybe I presumptively, like Kendrick, took it for granted. Not take it for granted. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever got to fully satisfied by it. Yeah.
But do you ever have you ever felt that feeling though? Like for anything, not really just God, but just like.
Yeah, one time.
Do you want to unpack? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know if I want to ask.
There wasn't one time. There wasn't one time.
Back in Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
It was the love, but it wasn't
Never
growing.
mind.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
You know, cue up the Tupac. It's just me, you know, in the world. Cue up the J and the J and B, you know.
And B and yeah.
All I need in his life is sin.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time.
Whoa.
The
I think the loving, because I'm stuck on the loving kindness in the version I'm reading. When I think of that, the idea that God loves me, that does mean more to me than anything. So that I experience daily, right? So if that's what it means, then yeah, I don't think I could do without knowing that God loves me.
and when you say you experience that daily, so like
Yeah.
every single day you reflect on that and are
Yeah.
in awe of that.
Because I'm reminded on a daily basis.
Gotcha.
Not saying I still don't complain and I don't do all the other stuff, but I am reminded. I'm like, man, like he still loves me, and I'm what? Jeez, thank you. Like I'm a mess, Lord, and you still love me, you still care for me. You're still patient. You're still, man. Like I'm in awe of that. I will never find that anywhere on this planet. And that if it's not on this planet, then that's not better than life. Like if I can't find it here, then
Yeah, that when I was reading a little bit more, that was the kind of love that it was talking about: loving kindness, steadfast love. It was a covenantal love, you know, his faithfulness to his covenant, his faithfulness to us. And I've had the moment where I came to an appreciation of that. I still wouldn't say that I'm full. It's like you go and you eat by somebody, and you still had when you leave, you still want to stop down the road. Not that they didn't have enough food to feed you, you know, but
And not that it wasn't good.
you know, and not that it wasn't good either, you know.
Yeah.
You go to the buffet, and then when you get up, you're like, I need to get something to eat before I reach home. After you just sit down and eat your belly full, like that. That's what that experience has been like.
and I still take it for granted. So.
I'm going to I'm gonna focus on that. I've never looked at it from that perspective or read it from that perspective. That's
I
interesting.
desire to be able to testify to that experience. I just have not had it yet, and I was curious to see what you guys experienced. So thank you for sharing that with me. If anybody,
I hope I'm capable.
Jonathan says, there was a time when I didn't want his presence, which was also forfeiting his love and everything that embodies the word love as it relates to his love.
Dang, Drawthan?
That's what's up. Appreciate that. He goes on to say, that was not worth having. Wow. Wow. That's a word. That's a word. Thank you for that. I was about to say if anybody else who was on had any experience like that to share, but thank you, Jonathan, for coming in right on time with that. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's all that I had for today, and I think we went a little bit over time there doing that, but thank you guys for your perspectives. This is where we go through the takeaways. I know we talked about at least 4 or 5 different things from our reading today. We just want to try and bring it together with, okay, of all the things that we talked about today, what are you leaving with? What are you going home with? What was impactful to you? What are you going to chew on? Or what are you going home with today? So I'm going to start with you, Jerry, and then come around to Kenrick.
Big thing for me is that point you raised about when we're praying with God in mind or with ourselves in mind. That is, yeah, I have to actually be more intentional with that.
Word.
Sure.
How about you, Lauren?
It was what you said earlier. Your the question I asked about how to suffer patiently, and your song, and just remembering who he is. That was my takeaway.
Chris, how about you?
Um, I'm still waiting for Drothing to. I'm almost waiting for Drothing to put a butt to the end of that. That statement. I'm kind of thrown off for a second, but yeah, day by day is still stuck in my head. The song and the lyrics that you had mentioned, and the way you put that together, is still kind of stuck in my head. So that's my takeaway for right now.
Well, how about you, Courtney?
Man, two things that I appreciated that as we were working through the idolatry and just have a better understanding about what worship entails. And now the second one is that line you said, his priority is our character. And sometimes I lose sight of that. But when I use that to frame a lot of the testimony of these folks that are in the Word, or even the people that you mentioned, maybe the more righteous ones, the wise ones, the ones that do stumble. All this refining process is all to have this trust in Him, this dependence on Him, and this character building thing that He's working through, with all of us.
I receive that. I receive it. Kendrick?
Dog, Psalm 63 is an R&B song.
You've been missing out, man. You've been missing out.
It still doesn't rhyme, but whatever. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
You need to read the Psalms more often, man.
apparently, I'm gonna read this one tonight to Joel.
Oh, what a day.
Not my first takeaway was goes back to the idol and in the conversation we had, it was not allowing anything, anyone, or me to be in direct conflict with God, and then actively living that. And so and being intentional about it. And so that was the one. And then the other was I'm just not a feely guy, man. But so I was I was troubled. Like, man, I've never felt like loving kindness. And so I've never really processed that. And so, I was like, man, maybe I do need to go back to therapy, and maybe, I mean, get in touch with my feelings,
We just need to read the Psalms.
or maybe, yeah. This dude was, I remember you on my bed.
Lyrics.
Man,
Lyrics.
talking to Jesus, to God, like, what is? So anyway, I was like, anyway, that was my takeaway, man.
Jordan said, life would have no meaning without the Father's love, so what will be the purpose of our living? He clarified for you. All right. I'm going to give my takeaway and then share the one that Vanessa shared. My takeaway actually came from something, well, there are two takeaways. The first one is tongue-in-cheek. But I'm here among all these righteous people.
That is 100% tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Cliff is my only peer here. No, that was tongue in cheek. But more seriously, was something Lorraine said in terms of the statement about the wise stumbling to be refined and purified. Her spin of wise in their own eyes, the stumbling helps them get true wisdom. That spin, I'm holding on to that. I I don't know, when I read it, I may have just presumed that there was these people were, spiritually wise more than the people we regard as wise. I think that shift was even more helpful in understanding why stumbling is refining for them. So they may have actually been wise, but they could be wiser, and their stumbling helps to refine that. So, Gerald had a question. Oh, that last question, this is his takeaway. I'm gonna come back to that then. Vanessa's takeaway was print day by day, post it by the bed to see when I wake up and go to sleep. Gerald's takeaway, that last question, hits hard because, like the other person, I put God on the shelf for a really long time. Tried to do it on my own for 2 decades and failed badly. So rediscovering his love has me. All right, and then Drawson followed up his statement to Cliff with, because God is love.
I appreciate it.
Word. Hey guys, thank you for the conversation tonight, for all the contributions, the perspectives, the insights, the vulnerability, the transparency, and the thoughts. Thank you for also indulging me in some of my sillies, making me feel safe to do that.
So,
all right, yeah, we are on every first and third Friday. Most of you who are on probably already know that, but in case you don't, every first and third Friday. So we're on again 2 weeks from now, whenever that is. What's that? 7 plus the 21st. We're again on the 21st. We are following a Bible reading plan, so our conversations, as random as they seem, are not really random. They're coming out of our readings from here since between the times that we meet. You can get a hard copy like this by emailing info@waterforthethirsty.com, and we can organize to mail it to you. Or if you don't believe in hard copies and like digital, you can download it on your phone from the App Store, Google Play, or you can print a PDF if you like that from the website waterforthethirsty.com. I encourage that you read with us, not just so that you could track where we go in, but you could also bring your questions, your thoughts, your insights, anything that you found that troubled you, that inspired you, that made you say, man, this was powerful. This is just what I needed this week. This was transformative for me, or this made me very, very uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do with it. We welcome all of those conversations. Our goal, our hope is that through these conversations, you are better able to manage the word on your own in your own personal Bible study time, so that you can continue to grow your relationship more effectively, with more tools, more skills, more perspectives at your disposal, so that it becomes valuable and meaningful for you. We're hoping to help you generate your own thoughts around it and not just be reliant on others. So yeah, that's what we're about. So we're gonna pray now to close, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks, third Friday in October.
All right.
Kerry, would you pray for us to close?
Sure. Darling Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Thank you for the time spent. Thank you for the wrestling with ideas, the thoughts, the fact that maybe some of us have reached clarity on some things, and then we appreciate the struggle that will continue. We ask you to please be in all of it. Continue to be with each and every one of us and our families, and bring us back together in a couple weeks. We ask all these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. This space here can hold up to 10 people, so we have space for at least 2, maybe 3 more. So if you really want to come and join the conversation, it'll probably be easier to talk. So we can make space for that as well. Just hit me, info@waterforthethirsty.com, or Facebook, Instagram, Water for the Thirsty, and we can make it happen. All right.
Was that where did they email you at again, Jared?
info@waterforthethirsty.com.
Thank you, brother.
Direct message on Instagram and Facebook, all of that too. Yeah. Thanks, Cliff. Until the next time, guys, drink up and drink deeply.
Drink up.
Woohoo.